And he said this move really threw him for a loop. He wasn't expecting it. But for me, I play this move so often. I had a very nice attacking game against the French. This is round 3 of the Exton Open, and I entering this round with one loss to a master and 1 win against a 1900. So I'm feeling pretty good, and I want to continue my winning streak here. And surprisingly, I'm playing down. This opponent had a bye in the second round because it was an unnumber of people, and yeah, so I'm hoping to win and then play another master in round 4. So I start with e4, best by test, and he plays the French defense. And I like to put 2 pawns in the center and then play the advanced variation. And I just really enjoy having more space against the French. And I also like to play aggressively with this. And some people play the advanced variation in a more positional manner, but not I. He plays c5, I reinforce the center, and he develops a piece. And, he attacks it, I defend it, and he puts his queen out to potentially pressure d4 more, maybe also b2, and I play bishop d3 here. He could exchange pawns immediately, and then play like knight b4, or something like that, which will be kind of bad to do since he's moving a piece that's already developed when he could be developing other pieces. He could play bishop d7, which is what he did in the game, or he could just take first and then play bishop d7. Black cannot take again. The pawn d4 is not actually hanging because I would take and then play bishop b5 check, discover check on the queen. So that would be bad news bears for him. Well, he plays bishop d7, and against this move order, I like to take on c5. And he develops his bishop out, so it's definitely a square that he wants to go to. But now I castle. The f2 pawn is hanging, so I have to defend it. And now he plays queen c7. I've won some rapid games, actually, with knight e7 because now the bishop on c5 is trapped. So black has to be careful. a5 is another move that black can do. He told me after the game that he doesn't like how weak this b5 square is. Like, maybe I could consider like knight a3 and knight b5, or, he just doesn't like that. But this is a totally legit way to play. Queen c7, I've also seen that. I think I've seen that in Pan Am's, actually, when we were playing against Sacred Heart University. My opponent played queen c7. I had a very nice aggressive game against him as well. So he's attacking the opponent e5, so I defend it. I could defend with rook e1. I just don't like how queen b6 comes back with tempo. But I guess here I can play queen e2, and I don't have to put the rook back on f1. So maybe I could have played rook e1 and not queen e2. But I don't think the queen is bad on e2. But yeah, maybe I could have played this move instead, now that I think about it. After play queen e2, he develops his knight. And I think now is the moment that I should play b4. In hindsight, because now the bishop cannot go backwards to e7 where it can defend the king side. It has to go back to b6. Also, with this pawn on b4, if he does decide to castle queen side, then I've already started my pawns launching down the board, so that's very good. So I think now is the time to play b4. I could maybe consider b5 at some point, not now, I don't think, because even though I do get this diagonal, I don't think it's good enough. And he has too much counterplay with his knight getting to c4 and this pawn being weak on c3. So I don't think this is a good thing to do, to push b5 so early at this moment. But I do think I should have played b4 here, though. And instead I played knight bd2, which is totally reasonable. But suddenly I was like, after knight g6, I didn't like how knight f4 was a threat. And like, I feel like I've had this position before against the French. But I was like, I can't play b4 now. Because now knight f4. And I can't defend my bishop. And I was like, this isn't good. And I really wanted to get a position where I got b4 in. But now it's too late. I have to play b4 before knight g6. Because if I play b4 immediately, well, firstly, like, my bishop covers f4. And then I can play knight b2, knight bd2, and maybe even develop like this with my knight behind the pawn on b4. And I think this might be a better way to develop. And now if he plays a5, if he ever does play a5 with after my pawn is on b4, I can play b5, and now his knight cannot go to a5 like it could in the other variation. So I think I should have played b4 here, but once again I didn't. And now this position is still not bad for me, but now this bishop, before it had to go to b6, but now I can go back to e7. And he's attacking my e5 pawn, and this position is not bad for me, but I don't think it's as good as it could have been. That being said, though, he could really consider castling queenside if he really wanted to. He could maybe even consider playing f6 now, although it's a little bit scary with the king in the center and my queen and rook lined up. So maybe he wouldn't play it, and maybe... But if I do ever take the knight on g6, like, he has this open h file, and he can still castle kingside. And if I do take, I mean, this is just awfully scary. He could either take with the bishop or the pawn, probably the pawn. And even if I go here, for example, I mean, he just has this big black center. And this is like, not no bueno for me. And that's the hard part against the French. Like, sometimes this pawn on e5, even though it's not isolated, I have an f pawn, it just feels so isolated sometimes. And it can definitely be tough. Because, like, if you end up trading off this pawn for black's f pawn, black just has this massive center that it can just start rolling down the board, and you're just worse in a lot of endgames. Similarly to the Caro-Kann. Like, like, you're just, like, white is just worse in a lot of endgames. Or at least it's harder to play in a lot of endgames. But he does end up castling. And now I come up with my patented move. It's not patented. But I play h4 here. And he said this move really threw him for a loop. He wasn't expecting it. But for me, I play this move so often. Firstly, I just wanted to expand and play h5, h6 and weaken up the king side at a bare minimum. But it's just a pawn gambit. If he takes with a knight, he just loses the spots because I take back, and now I have queen h5, threatening checkmate and threatening the bishop on h4, and it's just game over. If he takes with the bishop, it's not game over as quickly, but I still take and play queen h5, attacking both the knight and the pawn, so he has to go back. And now I could consider playing f4. I could consider playing bishop f4 maybe, and he cannot take because of mate. So there's everything I can consider. And for the cost of my h-pawn, I have this very nice attack. My pieces are all aggressively placed, and I'm enjoying life. So taking the pawn doesn't seem that appealing. If he plays a move like h5, I could consider taking immediately, but I could also just maybe play knight d4, just attacking his knight, trying to remove an attacker on e5. And this knight on b3 is probably my worst placed minor piece. And then maybe after I remove a defender or two on the e5 square, maybe I can play like knight g5 and attack the pawn on h5. That's definitely an idea. Instead of that, he plays rook c8, opening up the f8 square for his knight. Also, of course, if he plays h6 to try to stop the pawn from advancing to h6 after kicking out the knight, I mean, his knight has to go to h8, which looks ugly. I guess he could still go knight h4. But this is still also very, very bad because the h6 pawn drops, and actually is going to be checkmate very, very soon, I think. So he goes rook fc8, but now I just play h5. You know, like my same side pawn flank attack just worked, and he ends up going knight h4. He doesn't want to defend passively here. Knight f8 doesn't feel very good, but there is a saying, you know, knight f8 there is no mate. So I think he definitely could have considered it. If I do play h6, he could play g6. And now we have a more positional game where it's going to be very difficult for me to generate a checkmate near him. But I do have a nice clamp on the dark squares on his king side and the center here. So all the play is going to be on the queen side. So if I can stop any counterplay on the queen side and minimize it, then white is just much better. But if I cannot stop the counterplay on the queen side, then I think white is going to be worse. But here I don't think it's going to be that bad. But also in this position, I don't have to play h6. I can also just move my knight and then prepare to play queen g4. Move my knight here, and what do you do? If you take, I'm going to take back with my knight and play queen g4 next. I'm not sure what you should do here as black, honestly. Very uncomfortable. I'm going to start a big attack on you. That's why he plays knight h4, and I still play queen g4, but now he has his f8 square for his bishop. So his idea is that if I do play bishop h6 or something like that, he can play bishop f8 to defend against checkmate. I do play bishop f4 though, defending the e5 pawn. Maybe I could have considered bishop h6 and bishop f8 and then f4. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I feel like king h8 looks a little bit annoying. And I'm just not sure how much I want to commit to the pawn. To the bishop sacrifice, I mean. I play bishop f4, simply developing a piece, defending e5, because he has two pieces attacking it. So I have two pieces defending it. And I can still do a rook lift to attack his king. And I just have a very nice and simple attack. He goes knight h5, just desperately trying to open things up. If I take him, this is still winning for me, but now he can play bishop b5 more easily. Maybe push his pawn to b5 and b4 to try to open things up. So instead of that, I just ignore it. I play rook e3. He takes, and I play rook g3. Like, let's just keep it rolling. Like, I'm just going to threaten checkmate. And how are you going to stop me? He plays bishop f8 now. And genuinely, I was thinking about playing bishop h6. And because, of course, if he takes, and now I'm going to take. And I just don't know. Like, he's just going to die on the g file. But I thought after bishop h6, there was g6. And I was like, I could take. And then if he takes me, then I'm going to take with check. But then he can, and then after here, I don't see the mate. And if I take here, maybe he can take back here. But then he loses this, and maybe this is good for me. So maybe I could have taken here. But also, he didn't have to take my bishop. He could have also just taken back with the h-pawn. Or he could have taken back with the f-pawn and try to open up his defense with his queen. But then I can take here. But then I takes here, and then he goes here, and I go here. And then I'm like, okay, well, now it is checkmate. But he had different options. And I just wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sure. All I know is that this position is winning for me. I know that this position right here is winning for me, whether or not I play bishop h6 immediately or not. So I just took back with the knight. I was like, I am not going to overcomplicate this. Like, I was going to take back with the knight. I'm going to take back the knight with my pawn. And I still have the same exact attack. But now I don't have two pieces hanging. And yeah, I just think it's like more simple. I think it's more beautiful if I just didn't touch the knight on b3 and let it take my rook on a1. But you know, tomato. So he plays bishop e8 to try to defend laterally with the queen. But now, look at these bishops on e8 and f8. It's actually crazy, the lack of piece quality here. All of my pieces are doing the maximum to the effect. Even the rook on a1 is staring into an open file, into the black position. That being said, I do go over here to defend my pawn, because if I do go bishop h6 now, this pawn on e5 will be hanging. Actually, if I think about it, earlier, if I go bishop h6 now, the pawn on e5 is hanging, which is not very pleasant. Yeah, I probably don't want to do this. I mean, even though I can kick the queen around a little bit with f4, oh my goodness, the queen gets trapped. Wow. If he tries to defend a g7, the queen gets trapped. That's nuts. There's no infiltration squares here either, so he has to go back and lose the game. And even if queen c5 check, there's bishop check. Bishop d4 check. That's crazy. That's insane. Okay, I did not see that. But anyways, I play pretty simply. Wow, that means in this position I can play bishop h6. I can play bishop h6 here because he cannot take, because once again, all these squares are covered. And if he tries to defend, his queen gets trapped. That's so crazy, man. Okay, anyways. So I defend my pawn erroneously. Apparently I didn't need to do that. But now I still get bishop h6 in. He plays g6. I take. He takes back. But now his e6 pawn is undefended and is dropping. So I trade bishops first, because if I take the pawn immediately, I have two things hanging at the same time. So I trade bishops first. Play queen takes e6. He goes bishop f7. I play queen f6. So if he does play queen e7, this is going to be not checkmate, but pretty bad. Pretty bad. I'm going to win the whole house at a bare minimum. I don't even have to play those moves immediately as well. So he goes king g8, but now I go e6. So I took the pawn on e6, I moved my queen out, and now my rook on e1 is coming alive. It is living vicariously through the pawn on e6, and I'm able to really break through here. Now I'm throwing checkmate, so he goes back, but now I play rook f3, and he resigns, because this bishop is undefendable. And it's just going to be checkmate very, very soon. So a very simple, nice attacking game where I gained space in the center, and I was a little bit worried about the move order I chose, but it ended up being okay. Then after he castled, bam, pawn sacrifice. And suddenly my bishops are very well placed, very well poised for an attack. And he ends up on the back foot very early on. And it's honestly, I think, impossible to defend. I think knight of fate is the way he has to go. But instead of that, he goes forward. And he's not able to defend as easily with that knight trade. That knight that he traded on h4, it was going to be a key defender in his position. But now all of his pieces are on the other side of the board, not able to defend the king side as easily. And once again, I just easily developed my pieces and attack from there. And that was the game. So I'm going to hit the game review. And spoiler alert, in round 4, I play against a national master.